Hello everybody, we're going through and answering the questions that you guys ask most, and today's question is there anything that I can do for the girls? Yes, darling, yes there is. Let's zoom in. So I wanted to make sure to get a zoomed in image of the pec muscle or pectoralis major. You can see the clavicle better here, but the pec actually attaches on the medial side. It's underneath this fascia, but on this medial side of the clavicle as well as around the sternum. And the important thing to recognize with the fiber direction is that you actually have fibers that oppose each other. So we have these upper fibers and then we have these lower fibers, which means that those fibers will actually oppose each other. And then of course the primary motion of the pec is to adduct, and adduction just means adding to the midline. Sometimes you hear people say adduct or abduct, so this would be the adduction, so adding to the midline. So when these muscle fibers shorten, they'll go joop. Okay, Alba, so now how do I work the whole area of the pecs? So we just looked at the muscle fiber direction. We saw the clavicle here, right? So that's this bone here. We have the attachments of the pec on the medial side of the clavicle, which means that they're closer to the midline of the body, and then against the sternum in those first 6 ribs. And the sternum is this bone, this big bone right here in the middle. So when we're looking at fiber direction, all 3 areas are responsible for adduction. So that's why whenever you see people doing chest presses, and it's called a chest press for a reason, right? So a chest press or a chest fly, it's because every time that you do adduction, right, adding to the midline of the body, you are working the pec muscle in some way, shape, or form. But let's say that we want to be specific and we want to be incorporating different and targeting different areas of the pec. So for instance, if we want to target the upper portion, we're going to add shoulder flexion. And if we want to target a little bit more on the lower section, we're actually going to add shoulder extension. So how can we do this in incorporating, get more bang for your buck in the least amount of time and still work all the areas? So the first honest thing that you can do is making sure that you get full range of motion. So gain a little bit of healthy extension wherever you can control the movement, of course, right? To target those lower portions, right? So you're adding some resistance there. Resistance bands are great for this because they do resistance in both directions, whereas dumbbells, you're only able to work against gravity. So this is where bands come into play. But in targeting the lower portion, so if we're here, we want to start a little bit further back as long as you can control it. And then the same thing for the upper. So lower down here and the upper coming up. Now, other angles of this to pay attention to are the fact that your shoulders can do this. And essentially the pec, even though it's a chest muscle and it's on your trunk, it's actually a shoulder exercise because of the fact that the shoulders are what move. So because that muscle is attaching here on your arm, right? It's attaching to your humerus. So if it's attaching to your humerus and then crosses the joint that it crosses is the shoulder. So we want to make sure that we come up through here, right? And also you can change angles of your wrist. It does make a difference. If you put your hands, just kind of like spread your fingers over your chest, you can kind of go even on adding here, and I'm going for the upper fibers, going here versus going here, it does change how the muscles are being utilized and how they work. And you can actually feel certain areas tighten under your fingers a little bit more. It's so much fun. So we want to make sure that we're going here, and just remember that you have all of these oblique planes because the shoulders circumduct and they go pretty much 360, right? Because you can make a 360 circle. We want to make sure that we're working this muscle in all of the areas. So ladies and gentlemen, chest press, right? Those are beautiful. And sometimes people only go here, but what about all of these other angles? We can go here, we can go here, we can go here, we can go here, right? And then the same for flies. And then of course, changing up whether you're using bands or dumbbells, and then how you're creating that angle of resistance, all wonderful ways to work the pec and work the whole thing so that ladies, we can come up a little perkier, and gentlemen, we can avoid those man boobs. We don't want that. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you find that helpful. Mwah. Bye.